We are going live. And good evening, folks. Welcome to Outside the Fence, presented and sponsored by Richie's Smokin' Barbecue. We'll get back to that a little bit, but this is probably our 5th or 6th show. Tonight's guest, Sean Worman. We'll get to the nickname later onto the show, but we are live in South Beloit, Illinois. I think it's about 9 degrees below zero out, and in the background we're watching the races at Daytona, well, New Smyrna Speedway. So for us poor suckers that are stuck here in the great northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin area, suck it up, it's only gonna get colder. So welcome to winter, and that's a good time of the year to have shows like this, kick back on what happened last year, and obviously look forward to next year. I'd like, as I do in the beginning of the show, give you a little update on what we got coming up at Rockford Speedway and Big 8 Series and stuff in the area. The most current event we do have coming is our 2020 Championship Banquet. It's been moved twice. We're now scheduled for February 27th. I believe that's correct. Saturday night. The tickets are now on sale. You can go onto our Facebook page or our Rockford Speedway website address and get the ticket forms there. Always a formal affair, a great sit-down prime rib dinner by Hoffman House. Awesome food. Sean, you ever been?
I've been to a couple of them.
I can
Real
only
good
imagine.
food, good time.
Do they sell beer?
Every once in a while.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Anyway, so you're looking for that. Banquet tickets are up and available. That's actually approaching fast as we cross into the great February month. The Speedway schedule, everybody wants to know, all right, when are we going on? What's happening? And I have nothing official, but I have a few dates that everybody will enjoy to put your fingers on. The Spring Classic is going to happen the weekend of April 24th or 25th, Saturday or Sunday. We're still working those details out. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of COVID restrictions that have held a lot of this stuff up throughout even the summer. Some of our scheduling aspects there. So the Spring Classic set for that weekend, April 24th, 25th. I see we had a question in about the Enduro. We'll have 3 weekends of Enduros. The first one, the XRX Enduro, right now scheduled for Saturday, May 1st. Then the 74th season opener at Rockford, scheduled for Saturday night, May 8th. So that's where we go. We're going to work on getting out our key date schedule. But I said this COVID, excuse me, I'm trying to book some other events in. And a lot of these guys have makeup dates from last year where they lost them at these other facilities. So they're taking priority. And we're kind of all waiting to see what the state, the governors, the president, whoever, the experts, the scientists, oh, that's right, the scientists and the experts tell us what they really don't know going on that deal. Other things, like we said earlier, the Speed Week's going on now down in, New Smyrna, but Daytona Beach, Florida, obviously. The NASCAR season's kicking off on I think Tuesday night's the All-Star Race, or Busch Clash, or whatever they call it these days. Not All-Star Race, but... But the neat thing about New Smyrna and Volusia County, the short track activity, they go like 9 nights in a row. And they're kicking off at New Smyrna tonight. Volusia's been going since Thursday night. And they had something like 80 some modifieds there, their opening night over at Volusia on the dirt track. Bunch of local guys down there. We were just talking earlier. We got Jeremy Miller. The list is long. R.J. Braun, Justin Von Dyke. Who else am I missing? But there's a lot of guys have gone down, had great success. Jeremy Miller was close to winning the Pro Late Model Championship last year. He got caught in the tech line by Ricky Brooks last year. 1/8 of an inch on the front nose of the car was off, so they knocked him back out of that night. And unfortunately, he didn't win the championship that night. But a lot of activity in the racing world, just not here in Northern Illinois, but right here at South Beloit, we're full of it. Tonight we want to introduce our guest, Sean, known as the Beer Man. And I want to start right there. Obviously you have a beer in your hand, but where did the Beer Man nickname come from?
Well, the Beer Man nickname came from Bobby Frisch. We were building my first sixer in his garage. And I always bring a 30-pack with, which
you did tonight.
Did again tonight. And I always call him up and say, hey, what do we need? We got drill bits and grinder wheels, whatever else. And I always ask how much beer's left in the fridge, and it'd be like, 6 or 7. I go, well, nobody else has anything to drink. And I probably came in with 2 30-packs that night with 1 beer already open, and he just says, if it's not the Beer Man. And he made it stick, and I don't matter where I race, people walk up and see the car, and they go, oh, you're the guy. And I said, okay, yeah, that's me.
So it's relatively new. I mean, let's go back. How long have you been racing then?
Bobby put me in a Hornet almost 5 years ago. He says, hey, man, you've been on racing long enough. You need to be in a car. He goes, drive this car and see how you do. So I hopped in it, and he says, all right. He goes, I got a different car. I drove that for a night, and he goes, gave me a price, and I bought the car and went racing. And then after that, of course, the Hornet division went away.
Right. And
he's like, what are you going to race? And I said, what's the next best thing? He goes, race one of those Sixers. And he says, I got a guy that has a car. Bought a car from Josh Steering, and went and looked at it, drove it from Josh's house to Bobby's. We stripped it all out, built the cage, built it like what it is today, and went out and finished second in points that year. So had a good year.
But you started in racing prior to that. I mean, back in the day, you helped out with the Midwest Enduro Series.
Yeah,
and go a little further back.
So
in your
history. What gave me really a racing bug is both my dad and my uncle both raced, and always was kind of around racing. My dad and I back in the early or late 90s, we sponsored lots of cars up north, all dirt cars where I'm from, and always had a passion for being around racing, something to do with racing. Moved to Illinois, worked on my my uncle's buddy's late model, and then moved to the Rockford area, And one night I irritated the wife a lot, and she's like, "You need to leave." And she goes, "Go to a race." And I go, "Well, at that time, Freeport was still open." And I said, "Freeport's too far away, and the South's too far away to get there with, and see a decent amount of racing." And she goes, so I went to Rockford kind of kicking and screaming, and I'm glad I did. It's been a great home. You guys do awesome things there for the racers in the community. And I got hooked up with a buddy that was running the inaugural series, and he says, "Come back tomorrow and hang out." So I did, and ran with him for long enough that made me his race director and promoted and helped out in any way we could. And appreciated every time that you let us just kind of come through throwing. I went to hundreds of, not hundreds track, but every local track I could get to, and passing out just flyers. And he finally was, first night I did it, he calls me up Wednesday, he goes, "Well, what'd you tell the drivers?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "I've had 4 phone calls every day since Sunday." And I says, "Well, that's good. That's 16 phone calls." Did you?
Right.
And he goes, "Well, what'd you tell him?" I says, "I just told him, I said, you come race with us, we'll have a good time and hopefully make some money." I says, I just wanted to hit as many cars as I could. And then as time went on, I met Charlie Frisch and Bobby Frisch, and great guys, great family, and from there just met everybody else, and it's been a good ride so far.
So you came from Wisconsin. What dirt tracks did you start at or grow up at? Or
I never got the chance to turn any laps on any tracks up north. That was all sponsorship and helping guys. There's just Proctor Speedway, ABC Speedway, Rice Lake.
So you're way up north.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's Rice Lake. There's Menominee. There's Red Cedar Falls Speedway, I think it is. Monster Hollow. I think I don't know if they're still open or not. So there's a
different name.
The Tricky Triangle down in Fountain City. Now they've made that oval, but that's on Friday night. We went to Menominee quite a bit.
Okay.
Friday night was Rice Lake. I got to watch Buzzy Adams grow up from racing street stocks up to he went to late models now. He's came a long way. He's raced a whole lot, and those guys I used to sponsor and watch.
Awesome. But you taking the Sixers to, I know you went to Darlington, which is a dirt track at the fairgrounds.
That was a Hornet.
Oh, that was in the Hornet.
Yeah,
okay. Back in the Hornet days.
Nothing was open, so Bobby texted me, and he's like, "Hey, sent me a picture." He goes, "This is on the Darlington Speedway. You want to go?"
Lafayette County Speedway.
Lafayette County Speedway. Here's a picture of a Hornet, and I said, "When?" He's Friday. I said, "Okay." So we went, and Bobby went with, and we went out. And for practice, he says, "How's it feel?" I said, "It feels like pushes like a dump truck." And so we gave it a little more camber, and we put a little rear steer in it, and went out and did a little better. And he says, "How was that?" I says, "Whatever you did to the rear end," I says, "put twice in it." So we went out. I went out and finished 4th for the first time being there, and went back the next night and finished 5th or 6th the following weekend. And then after that, we were full-fledged racing either at Madison or at Rockford.
You ended up in the Lafayette County points, so then you were top 10 maybe or something.
I was in the top 10 until one of the last the last race of the night, and I was really tempted to go there just so I can say, "Hey, I've finished the top 10 points and raced there 3 times."
That is my mother and father's hometown, by the way. Darlington, been there many times.
Yeah, I think you shared that with me. Like when you found out I went there, you're like, "Oh yeah," it's like. So I love the track. I'd like to take something back there again, race someday, just because it's a beautiful,
They're doing well. That's a good thing. It's been up and down there, different promoters. It's a fairgrounds situation, so that's always the craziness part of it. Let's go back to Richie's Smoking Barbecue real quick. I know. Have you ever had his food before? I mean, until tonight, or?
I did a couple different times. Most recently, maybe that's. Time slips me, maybe a month and a half or so.
Okay.
Took the wife and the kids down, and we got some. I don't remember what all it was, but tell you what, it was delicious. And every once in a while, it's hard to kind of make it back to all these restaurants that I find really good. And that's a place to go. So if you haven't had it, you better go there.
Better check it out, Richie. I got to tell you, if you're listening, I had mentioned the tacos. Now the Mexicans need to be scared because you got into something there, pal. Because I've had them before at the restaurant. And tonight it was fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
And then he threw in brisket and pork nachos, which I've never had before. Obviously the pizza, he brought one of them along. But hey, keep surprising us with that good food, Richie. We certainly appreciate it here at Outside the Fence. Sean, back to you.
All right.
John Magnuson Jr., the announcer at Rockford, the host of Racing at Rockford on Sunday nights, you know, his new show over there. He says, why was the 2020 season at Rockford so rough on you?
Tell you what,
You should have seen the look on his face.
I raced probably about almost 10 to 12 times before, because Illinois was shut down. And
Right.
I looked at in Austin Fowler and I, we share a shop together. I looked in that shop and I was like, man, I got a lot of nice race cars here not being raced. Mm-hmm. And so we grabbed the old beer wagon and I said, let's go to Toma. So we started going to Toma and we started making that almost a religion to go there. First night there, I had my fan set up on a switch so I could, cool my car down, and forgot my fans on. Killed the battery, and I really love, that night made me really fall in love with the place. I'm sitting there, dead battery, and the guy 2 stalls down goes, hey, I'll jump you. He pulls up next to me, his Sixer. We throw jumper cables through the windows and jumpstart my car, and I go out, have a good night. And me and him have been buddies ever since. That's Josh Zacharias. And everybody in that pits, if you have a car down, I mean, 6 jacks and tools are showing up. It's like, how can we get you back on the track for feature time? And a very, very helpful crew of guys up at the Rockford Speedway. I really like the atmosphere. Had a whole lot of fun. Spent a lot of nights rolling down the track on Friday night with Fowler and just having a good time.
That's a Friday night event up there, right?
That's a Friday night event, and if it wasn't for COVID, I would not have been able to go there that much because I was able to schedule my work to have every Friday off. As a matter of fact, the whole work said, if you schedule me for work, I ain't showing up.
Let's go there for a minute. What do you do for a living? That people say,
well,
how do you tell the boss I'm going racing? Screw you,
Yeah. So the job I kind of fell into. It was a friend of my uncle's that I worked for when I first came to Illinois, and I fixed dust collectors for a living. They're just a huge, like, industrial-sized vacuum cleaner. Okay. The smallest thing you ever worked on, put in. I always say it's the size of a microwave, up to the largest thing I ever put up came in on 3 semis. So, and then I go out and either still put them in, or service them, which now for the last pretty much almost 7 years, we've just went primarily just into service work only, and I travel all over the place. I'll be on the other side of Nebraska one week, and I'll be all through Iowa. I mean there's places in just the local area. I got to look on a GPS just to go, okay, drop me off. I'll take you to where Buddy Holly's plane crashed. You put me in Iowa, I'll drive you right to it with no GPS. But but around here sometimes it's like, where's that at? So
has that changed with the COVID? I mean, you seeing more of it maybe in like commercial applications or
it really
food processing? You're mostly manufacturing.
It's all manufacturing.
Okay.
We do have a few like food production style customers. It's still the same thing. You come in, you got to have your temperature taken. You got to, have you been in contact with all these people? You got to fill all the forms out and all that stuff. But other than that, it really put a damper on my year because so many places just said no visitors.
Yeah, you can't come in, and
so that helped me. That's what I told the office. They don't want visitors. They can have me Monday through Thursday.
Oh, there you go. Works out.
And there was one Friday job, and actually, and the only reason I took it is they called, and I called the guy, and they told me what the problem was, and I go, I can fix that in an hour, and I get paid for 3 hours of driving one way and 3 hours back. It's a 7-hour day. So I went down all the way around the bottom side, what I call the armpit of the United States, which is right there in the right down with Indiana and Illinois there, and went down, fixed it, and came back. And by the time I was back, we put the car on the trailer, and Father and I left town and drove 2.5 hours north. So I drove a lot that day.
And then you race that night. And then, so let me ask this. Now they're saying all of these schools need HEPA filters and all. Is that all BS, or is there, can you filter out whatever this phony virus stuff is? I mean, I know you're not a doctor.
I know
you're not a scientist.
I'm not a scientist. One. Definitely not a doctor. But for the filters, it only, I forget what our best filter, the microns. It gets down to low microns of what comes back in, because with our systems, a lot of times if we're sucking from point A and the machine's sitting outside, we got to bring the air back in to the building,
Right.
and we'll put return air filters on it, and so the filter, like the respirators I wear at work, well, they are way better than any mask that they're recommending you wear. That paper little thing you wear, that when it says it's a certain rating, my ratings on my mask have to be way higher, and I work in places that are downright terrible. I come home some days, you can tell it's a clean factory, and then you can tell if I worked in a place that made tires. I come home either kind of clean and dusty, or I come home just black as can be.
Black, right?
Yeah. And it looks like I'm wearing eyeliner too. That kind of sucks. But
Well, tell us about that obsession.
that's not what I want to do.
Is that the new nickname? I don't know what that would be.
No, definitely not. I'll stick.
Are you a she man or not the beer man? I don't know.
No, I'll stick with the beer man over here. See?
So where do you want to? Well, I heard the rumor mill. This goes in the off season. You've stepped away from the Sixers. They're not stepped away, but you're jumping away from the Sixers, and you're building a road, or you have a Roadrunner. Is that the plan? Moving forward.
So, all through most of last year, maybe the year before, I was talking with John Magnuson about my other car, and I told him, I said, and he asked what a good car would be, and I said, hey, tell you what, if you want your kid to learn something that's really safe, I said, you gotta just buy the beer wagon. I said, because I've been forced once, or not twice, at Madison up onto the wall there is in turn 1 and 2, and it just kind of don't scathe it, and it's been kind of pushed around. I said, it's built well. I go, you can feel that when your kid gets in it, that he's going to come out of it. We took a lot of time, put a real nice cage in it, and so he ended up buying that. So that 6er left, and it's kind of like your first girlfriend. You're kind of sad to see her go, but if you just kind of forget about it, like ripping a Band-Aid off, just get it done. And my other car, who the wife helped name the mistress, just because she
takes more time than the wife. Oh
yeah. Well, no, she looked at the car sitting in the corner, and she goes, does that car get jealous over this one? And they have a discussion, and I looked at her and I asked what vitamin she had for the day.
Yeah.
And but that named the car. And so I had that one, and I, of course, got wrecked at Rockford, and I had to go to Nebraska the very next day, and I was like, I have zero time to work on this car, zero time to even get it prepped for the very next race,
right?
Because I was contending for 4th in points up at Toma, and I bought a car over a text message and picked it up in Toma over a text message, and Fowler and I painted that at a truck stop, put duct tape numbers on it, and went racing and set second fast time for the night. And I finished the top 5, or I forget exactly what I finished for the night that night,
but you finished.
But I finished.
Awesome.
I was a threat enough that the guy that I was fighting for 4th in points went home, stripped out his personal vehicle that took him to work, and made it into a race. He wanted to beat me that bad that he turned it into a race car.
So it sounds like you got a few rivalries up there at Toma too, huh?
Well, they're friendly rivalries, It's
the rough ones are here at Rockford, and we were talking earlier. Mark Koenig was throwing you under the bus the other night.
Yeah, he threw me under the bus, but he's got to remember the car that he claims I hit him with. That my Pontiac G6 has a very, very fragile front nose, and so if I would have hit him as hard as he claimed I did, that would have ripped my nose off my car, because there was no support behind it. It was just with a beer wagon. There was time that I let somebody else race it, and they did rip the nose off. And following night, we just zip tied that thing right back on. We went to Madison. I raced it 5-6 more times with a zip tied nose on it, and it never moved. So if I got into them, you know, it might have been one of my other drivers, because I did have somebody in that car after the second or third night. I did have somebody else in my other car, and if somebody roughed them up, I can't control when somebody else is in my car. So.
Well, you take the blame though.
But I take the blame. I got blamed for it quite a bit, you know, until somebody noticed that I really had 2 cars painted almost identical, and then after that, it's like, all right, we can't have identical cars anymore because it's giving somebody getting pissed at me. But
come back and haunt you.
Yeah, a little bit.
So to the new Sixer guys out there watching, what's the best car that they should? What do you think? What's your opinion?
You know, there's so many good ones. You know, I mean, there's a lot of good Monte Carlos out there. There's good Pontiac G6s out there. There's like I got that Buick LeSabre. I mean, like that thing's a killer up at Madison. You know, I got a couple guys at Madison. They just go, when I pull in, they go, "Did you really have to show up with that car again?"
It's a big boat, though, isn't it?
It's a boat, but if you run that thing on the bottom at Madison, it shifts. I mean, and it takes right off, and it goes pretty nice. I mean, that to me, that is a better Madison car than Rockford car. You know, so when I got driving Sixers, it was the second year, and so another thing kind of everybody started looking for better cars after that. You know, and I noticed there was a couple fast cars. That's one reason why I looked for a G6, and I had a bunch of problems with it. You know, I was always kind of fixing stuff. I got more new parts, you know, on that car and then on the Max that I bought to replace it. You know, it's like, hey, well, it's bad. It says we're not going to go put junk on. I went, you know, put all new parts on it just to make it go. If the brake was bad, it's like, hey, it's getting new brakes. You know, so it's almost sometimes a preference. You know, or sometimes you're given a car like, hey, man, you know, Grandma can't drive no more, but here you go, kid.
Run with
whatever
it,
the scenario may be.
So beginning, maybe it was this year or the year before, I don't recall, but the Malibu Max, which I never even knew that car existed until
about 20 of them showed up.
Yeah. Well, we had one and it did good, and then all of a sudden,
well,
I mean, they're the ugliest car in the world.
It's ugly as sin, but it's fast.
A lot of it has to do with transmissions and gear.
A lot of it has to do with transmissions. The one I had, it was a 1-year transmission, and about the second night out with that thing, I had to change the transmission fluid and some other stuff on it. But it's a quick car. When I went to Toma, everybody all week long is messaging me from Toma. I'm in Iowa or Nebraska, and what are you gonna do? And I had guys offer me hey, I got my backup car if you need to step into something. And I was like, I think I'll be all right, because I never told anybody what car I bought, because they had raced against it at least one time. And like I said, I went, dropped it off on the trip. He dropped it off. I took it around the parking lot real quick, came back, and finally I brought the spray cans out, sprayed it down, put my number on it. We pulled in, and everybody goes, "Oh, you bought that car?" And I said, "Yeah." And I went, and he'd put some oddball tires on it. And I brought enough tires to tire it up for the night. And I went out. When I pulled back into the pits, everybody turned around. They're all standing up on top of a roll-off on a tow truck, and they all flipped me off. And I said, "Why do all my friends just tell me I'm number one?"
Right.
I sat my helmet down, and I go, "I just set fast time." Well, Matt Moore came out and beat me by about 2/10. So I was like, well, he just put me back in my place. Matt Moore up there, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's very clean and fast.
Well, you got a lot of followers up in Wisconsin. Dan Diker checked in and said, "Hey, beer man, hello from Wisconsin. There's a bunch of people here that you made your presence known. Look at that. You're a pretty popular guy."
When I brought the mistress up there with the new paint job, I was fortunate that weekend. I pulled up, and the guy in the lineup, we time trial up there, and Diker was asking. He goes, "Who is that?" And he's over the radio. "That's the beer man." He's like, then he says my name really kind of slow, Sean Worman. He's like, click, And I was like, he'll figure it out, And I'm glad that that they I had raced nice enough up there that they want me to come back, and we had a good time.
Well, looks like it. You got a lot of fans here, but looks like you dodged the Roadrunner question.
What was the Roadrunner question?
Well, did you buy one or not? I mean,
So,
where are we at? What's the future plans here?
Zero. I think there's 0 streetcar parts in our shop at this time. The last car to go was the Max. I told the guy came and looked at it, and I said, here's the deal. He says, you buy it for. I told him what the price for the car. I said, here's the price for the car.
Okay.
And I says, and here's the price for everything that I can find. And he texted me back, probably Sunday after he looked at it on a Friday, and he says, well, would you deliver it? And I said, yeah, like for this price. I shot him a price, and he said, okay. And I looked at Fowler, he said, let's go load the trailer. And he was pretty surprised on how much shit I just kept on throwing on the trailer. So we had the enclosed pretty full. So there is no Sixers in my shop, and yes, there is a Roadrunner in my shop.
Well, and I know your shop mate has a Sportsman, has a Roadrunner. I did hear Justin Wagner, who chimed in that one. He's moving. Hell, as a Roadrunner champ, he needs to move on up. He's got a Sporty in the build.
That's kind of how that all worked out. So if y'all wonder what car it is,
you don't have to tell us. I mean, we're just picking, It
is a good car. But so I'm not. Only thing I need now is to buy a crate.
So as you know, or if you don't know, the crate motor now is allowed in the Roadrunners, been allowed in the Sportsman, kind of hence this. You can move it around as you advance your racing career, or stay where you're at. You got a low price motor. Let's switch back real quick to the Sixers.
Okay.
Well, biggest rule change, we took the mirrors out.
That's fine.
And what's your opinion?
I'm not gonna race it anyway.
Well, no, I mean, did you use your mirror when you raced? I mean,
you could say no and you'd lie, but I try to use it as little as possible.
Okay.
The times that I would want to use it is if I see something happening in front of me. I'd look up to see who is gonna pile drive in.
See if you're clear to.
And then it's kind of like, hey, you're waving at them or whatever. And when I went up to Slinger on the 4th of July weekend, I passed my buddy going into one from the first lap, and I just glanced over my shoulder and I says, "Yep, I'm clear." And I took his line away from him just to startle him and drove away with the race and proceeded to put a half lap on everybody.
All right. So, did you ever win the feature in the Sixers at Rockford?
I won the.
And then let's go to Toma.
Hey.
Well, and let's go to Madison. Let's just give me your.
All right. Let's start with Rockford. So
let's go Rockford.
So, third night out in the beer wagon, the first year racing Sixers. I had Bobby Frisch help me out. He helps me out a lot. If it wasn't for something like Bobby Frisch helping me getting going, it probably wouldn't have happened. So he's like, I'm really busy. He goes, I'm going to watch your race, and I have to leave. He goes, so we reset the air pressure in the car, and he says, if you get a caution and you can go, he goes, as soon as you see the green light, just go. And I ended up sailing down into 1 and 2 harder than hammer hell, and kind of scattered up the track to pass a whole bunch of people, and that was I got third, past second, and the point leader, he was leading and had a flat tire, like the last or second last lap, and ended up winning that night. And I did. I know you don't let guys take victory laps, but the guy handed me the flag when I got there, and I just took off with the flag, and I said, I'm going to have a victory lap. So I did. Yeah, I have. It's been a long time since winning at home. I love calling Rockford home, and so it's been a long time since Rockford's. I've had a win there, and had a 3-4 heat wins there.
Okay.
Won 2 times up at Madison with the beer wagon. If I was to take any car there, I'd jump in that car tomorrow and take it there.
Right up there.
As long as I can get it from Greg. Yeah. And Toma, was kind of close a few times, for running with the guys that are fast up at Dan Fry, and like I said, there's a couple fast guys up there that they've been doing it a while, and they know that track, and Toma's like, to me, I always say it's kind of flat, like racing in a parking lot almost. It's not.
It's kind of flat. It is flat.
It is not high banked like Rockford. It's not high banked like Slinger, and You know, so Bobby, you know, when you talk about the next tracks, you know, Bobby got my car lettered in time for 4th of July weekend. And I was like, man, I'm going to debut this thing. Went to Slinger, or I went to Toma, did well. I think I finished like 5th. Got the brakes all heated up and shined up, brought it home, rebled the brakes, scuffed the rotors and pads. Took it to the Dells. They had a one-time show for us. Finished 3rd for the night. And I showed up kind of, didn't try to show up late, but I was later than anybody else was there. You know, but, and then I had somebody tell me, okay, you don't run here on this track. Well, everywhere, just a couple of guys told me not to run. I thought, well, let's see what they don't like about it. So for practice, I went out there and I put it right where it.
You weren't supposed to.
I go, this car handles real well here, and I'm not going to tell them that. And went out and ended up finishing 3rd for the night, and stayed overnight with the family in the Dells. We got up, we went to Slinger, and proceeded to win that Kim Parsons trophy in Slinger Speedway.
All right.
You know, I think that was the night you guys had to make the big 8s or something there. I think you guys.
Yeah,
did.
It was the Star Spangled 76 at Rockford, July 4th.
Yeah, so,
right.
And I know I didn't even know that trophy was being presented or that guy was there. You know, my buddy ended up beating me in the heat race, and he got out, fell on his ass, laughing at me for beating me in the heat race, and I said, all right. And he told me that, hey, they're giving away trophies. He's exaggerated. He's like this tall, and I said, like, well, okay, whatever, buddy. And I just said, okay, if they're giving away that tall, I said, I pointed at my truck. I says, it's going home with me.
And it did.
And it did, and he just looked at me, got out of the car off the feature, and he goes, man, you told me you were taking that, and you did.
What's Slinger like as a driver? I mean, it's obviously in a Sixers, it's a little different than a super late or late model, but
well, I've never driven either one of those just yet. But I tell you,
but to drive Slinger, I mean, that's an animal.
It's an animal, and I tell you what. After I got used to driving that track, I drove, and part of it I think is part of it. I drove the beer wagon first, and I said, all right. And once I get in that, which I consider a smaller, lighter car, it was just so much for me easier to drive, and the only time I remember using the brakes is when I slowed down to pick up the checker flag and to stop, to have my picture taken, so it's not a track that I was using my brakes at.
Can't imagine there. Well, there's Austin throwing in some stuff. Here's another one.
He's talking shit. No.
A lot of talking. We brought it up. Yeah, he is. We brought up on this show a lot of the mothers, the wives, the females, sisters, all the whatever the category want to raise. And we got rid of wing women on wheels at Rockford, and somebody suggested put them in the Sixers class and let them have their deal. And then I've taken that to I'm thinking the nights we do the HSRA, we can do women's powder puff, or John Magnuson wants to call them the Sixerettes, or. Yeah. Just to give that opportunity, because I think the women, some of them seem to be scared or not scared, but intimidated. When you have a 24-car feature field of Sixers, you think there'd be any women involved in that, or what's your take on that?
Why wouldn't they?
True.
Let them race, especially if it's a car I built. I was down at Windsor Pizza one. It was like maybe it was an afternoon or something, and a couple of our guys were in there, and Autumn Radina walks in, and it was driver X and Chris, his pit guy, and we're all kind of bullshitting, and X had left, and Chris starts telling the story, and he used the beer man as a name, and she goes, I always wanted to meet this beer man guy, and he points right at me and goes, he's right there, and.
There
so
we got
to start, and that's kind of how that whole thing kind of started. And she goes, I always wanted to get back in a car. And I go, I have a car like getting really dusty. I go, you got a helmet, you got gloves, get in my car. And she came and came to the shop, and we got the car all adjusted for seat belts and stuff.
Fitted her
and put her in it, and she did really well. That was the night that I got wrecked, but so she did way better than I did. And but why not of course, when I bring that up, the wife was pissed.
I was just going to say, that was my next question. What about the wife?
that my son and Autumn have driven my cars more than her or my daughter. And I was like, you guys come to my shop. I offer you to get in my cars, and And we kind of use the area around our shop this to our advantage. If I've been working on my car, and I go shake it down in a parking lot and just kind of
Right.
And I said, like, I want to make sure that this is going to be right once I get to the speedway, because once you're at the speedway, sometimes you're limited to repairs you can make. But why not? Let's put the women in some Sixers, and let them race.
So you think your wife would be like on the track? Would you let it happen?
Wait, whose money we spending here? No, I don't even let her drive me in a car unless I'm severely intoxicated.
Yes.
Hope she quit watching. No, but yeah, the part of it's the Italian in her. I wouldn't want. It's just that part kind of worries me a little bit once in a while, and some of the shit I get away with.
You need a big chrome horn on the front of that car, then, if she's in there,
and, and that's the next thing. Rules. Something you need to put in the rules is no horns. I can't stand horns. I unhooked my horns in my race cars. Race cars don't have horns.
Who's honking their horn? What do you mean?
Every Sixer that has one. Why?
Really?
Oh man!
I guess I never.
They come by for the wave lap, instead of waving, they're blowing a horn. I was like,
I love the guys that have the radios blasted though. But a lot of that happens, I guess, more in the enduro, but that does happen in some of the Sixers. They're in the lineup, and you're sitting. I can understand you're sitting there. Nothing going on.
I did have speakers that were accidentally left in my last car, and the lineup guy at Toma, he walked up to his car and he goes, "You got a CD player in there?" I said, "Yeah," and I put it whatever he gave me, and I was cranking tunes for the night the whole time of racing. I thought, whatever he came out at the end of the night, hey, I need my CD back. I was like, here you go. But other than that, it's just radio, I guess, fine, but when it comes to blowing horns, I'm not a fan of it.
Got a lot of comments coming in. Dan Diker, which was at Rockford last year, announcing down there, he had a blast, he says. Well, just the list goes on here. Justin Wagner sure wants to know what you got going, though, for this year. But I think he's part of that shop area.
Justin Wagner has a front row seat to what's going on.
Exactly. He's trying to get it out of you, but I think that's going to be hard to do tonight. So after that, tell me your scariest moment in your racing career.
The scariest moment was getting turned. It wasn't scary getting turned. It was until somebody tried driving through my driver's door of what we call it, the mistress there, the blue car for this year. Mm-hmm. I got turned going down into 3, ended up hitting Big Boy Bennett, and turned him. And after seeing the video, I don't know how he was able to turn a car that was pointing at the wall to pointing at the infield. But he did, and then I was pointing at his driver's door, which I shot for his front tire instead of his door, which sent us both sideways. And that's when somebody pile drived in my door. And I contributed to how we built that car, why that car didn't come any farther inside of my car. The door was like right here.
There.
I still have the door. I want to make it a wall hanger somewhere, because that was the roughest hit I ever took.
You had a decent cage in your cars.
Yep.
You always have.
I buy the hoop. Tell you what, I mean, go to Lefty, buy the hoop and the crossbars. I mean, I buy 2 crossbars, one for the top belt, the short belts, one for the bottom belt. Get it in your car. Have somebody good with a welder and somebody willing to help you out. There's lots of guys out there that's willing to help. Spend $300 for the safety in your cars. I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense, because that little, once you take out so much stuff, that little, what I call the beat belt, you thinking like that. What if you took out enough stuff that the don't lock up? I had a that's one reason why the belts went in the cars, because that belt wouldn't lock up.
Never engaged.
It would not engage, and so it's called, hey, we're putting racing belts in this thing, and racing belts have been in every car I've driven since.
Yeah, not a bad plan. Wow, you got a posse going on here. They sure got you. Oh, boy.
You can read some of the nasty thoughts.
No. Well, here's horns and radios are unnecessary weight. I guess that's probably true, but a lot of fun.
All right, the horn, it sits up in the front corner somewhere.
At half a pound.
It probably weighs as much as a empty beer can. I just unhook them and get rid of them. When I strip a car, I take every last little bit of anything that can hurt me or a fan, because I've been to a couple of different little car shows for kids and stuff, and next thing you know, you got 5 kids sitting in your race car, and I don't want anybody to get cut or hurt while doing something. Well, hey man, I want to put a smile on these kids' face, because at the end of the day, it's kind of why I do it. Don't matter how old the kid is, they can they can be 4, they can be 84. I want to put a smile on their face. That's the whole reason why I like going to the track. Is there are certain drivers, man, they'd go out and they put on a show, and run the cushion, whatever, and it's like, man, that's freaking cool, and so putting a smile on the fan's face, what I think it's about.
In today's cars, there's these tabs everywhere, underneath the dash, on the doors, and people just leave them exposed and don't hammer them over or soften them up, because you get in a crash, your legs go up.
Anything that I can take out that's sharp, every last little thing. I get ridiculed a lot by tech. Certain tech officials are like, the first year I brought the beer wagon in, I think he stuck his head in the window or somebody, and they looked and they go, "Where's all the stuff?" I go,
It's true.
We stripped every last extra nut and bolt out of that car. Primary is more of a safety feature.
And gets away. I mean, there's those bonuses too, but I get where you're coming from.
Well, I figured that whatever I took out in weight of extra shit, I put back in with my safety equipment, my cage.
Oh, that's true.
Because that all weighs something, So I feel I'm trading good weight for bad weight.
On the Sixer, what's the highest maintenance item? I think we talked about this before. Is it tires?
Tires can be a very high maintenance thing,
Not maintenance essentially, but wear item.
It's a wear item. There's a lot of wear items, and tires can be a real big one. Depends on, one thing I do like about Rockford. I don't know if I haven't looked at the Sixer rule book, but I don't know if you changed it. Is you didn't have a year code or date on the tires.
Right.
Which I love, because sometimes live tracks will let you run your hometown rules. I show up and I go, "You got to change that." And I go, "It's not required at my track." A lot of like Madison and Toma. Toma I think went to a 2-year rule now, and everybody else is about 3. And I just explained to them. I said, "Here, I can go buy, but I like to buy something that's going to last a little while." I said, "I'm almost spending the same amount of money buying used tires. I can go buy a new one for it." And I put new ones. It wasn't quite mid-season, but I raced all of 18, a half of 18 with the same tires down the right-hand side, and part of almost all of the following year at Madison with that car. It's like, so that's because I bought new tires. So
you have to shave them, or did you run them?
Oh yeah, I shaved them.
Okay, just curious.
And that's not in the rules, so you do it.
The gray area, or the no area.
Well,
that's why we ended up putting the camber at Rockford, especially with the banking, and we were just shredding these tires, even if they were shaved and old or new.
Come by, and the first couple of years, the tech was so kind of going through, because they weren't big on tech, and this year. I came through my car and I had a few issues with the front end. I didn't know that the ball joint was going out. So from my shop to my slab, it still read 1 inch. I get the tech, and now it's like 2 or more. Yeah, of course I know all the tech officials, and I'm very kind when I speak, and I tell them, you can't even read a tape measure, and I get out, and sure enough they can. And it's like, how does it change that fast, And we found out later on. I told Todd and Charlie. I said, "Hey," I said, I like to bring my stuff here spot on." And I said, "I'll get it fixed." I said, "I just, I went out and raced and ended up breaking the ball joint out."
Oh, they broke it, on you?
Yeah, going into 3, going for the checkered flag.
Well, since you're now graduated from Sixers, do you put rear steer in Sixers?
Have I, or do I?
Yes, both.
Both. Tell you what, I tried it for Toma, because Toma did not specify where you could have. Did not specify you could have it. I tried it. It didn't. it didn't make me any faster.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
It didn't make me faster. So I've tried it. I had it. I said, he said it didn't make us any faster. Take it out, and it's more a pain in the ass to put it in than it's really worth.
Harder to make it go away once you get it in there. I'm thinking.
It depends on how you do it. I made it so it's easy. So I made it so if I didn't like it, I could take it out right away.
Okay.
And it's not something I enjoyed. Not in that car anyway.
So Charlie checks in and says, "What made you move to Roadrunners over in the other division? Why not moving up with Sportsman?" I know you talked about the crate motor, but
Sportsman's a little bit of a bigger jump.
A big jump.
Sportsman's a big jump, and like Austin, he bought a car and we built. We did fine tune that thing for 2 years, almost 3 years before he made
Finally
a
brought
full
it out.
time commitment to kind of running it.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I'm that's kind of the sponsor is almost all my pocket. A lot of times.
Do you want to thank your sponsor?
I got a lot of good ones, but here's the deal. When you go to Sportsman, that's a jump. I don't have nothing. I mean, it's kind of like I didn't have nothing going jump into the Roadrunner, and I just said, you know what? I knew I was making the move. That's earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. That's why the beer wagon left. That's why the mistress left, and then we had the last car sitting on for sale for a while, and finally somebody said, "Hey, can I come look at it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So the Sportsman's division, that'd be something a little bit down the line, but we're in the Windsor Pizza. I tell you what, they came on board. This will be the third season now.
Steve Blake's helped you out.
Steve Blake is, tell you what, you can't ask for a better guy. Awesome food. When I travel for work, I like pizza, so I'll eat at different places. If I'm gonna find pizza personally that I enjoy as much as his, I gotta drive 2 hours. So if we order pizza, it's from my house. It's always from there. I got Raw Steel and Collision, the Raw Steel Collision Restart Zone.
Right.
He's been on my car. He's been on my car since day one. He was on my Hornet, and I just asked for say, hey, want to be on my car, kind of a deal, and we worked out something, and when that whole restart zone popped out, Fowler and I were talking about that, and he said, we got to talk to Dave about doing this, and we started like saying names, and out of the blue, I just started saying Raw Steel Restart Zone, and I go, that kind of rolls off the tongue real good. I said, you call it Deary, I said, you can see if you can sell this, and I'm gonna call my buddy right now, and he liked how it sounded, and that's all now been history. Now he's
been up there a couple years, and
so if you need your car fixed, tell you what, that's who got to go to, and if you need a frame straightened, go to Raw Steel and Collision.
He's right up there by the Speedway, off of 251.
What is that, 1146 Old Roston Road, I think is that.
Right.
It's one of those places I can just drive to without thinking of the address. So I don't, and I got Chuck's Electrical and Plumbing on my car. He's actually was, I met him before he was my neighbor. And one day we're out riding bikes with my daughter, and she goes, "Hey, this is my friend's house." I go, "Okay." And next thing you know, we already knew each other, and he's been on my car ever since, and we got Aero Automotive fluids and stuff on my car, and so borderline auto sales.
The Robinsons, yeah.
Yep. Big Jimmy just does it so you can get beer.
Why would he sponsor the beer man? I mean, that's an easy question.
Well, that's so he knows he always has a place to go to get beer.
That's true. So we're getting near the end of the show, and I forgot to do this last week, but I like to throw out, I've been asking you questions all night. You got a question for me? I know it'll be probably about rules, but maybe not. I don't know. Kind of throw you for a loop there.
I get to ask Dave questions. All right. Yeah, let's I could be real mean and say, hey, why the lineup changed in the Sixers all year long?
Well, I did it in the beginning of the year, and then I realized I was doing it wrong.
Because I was used to the prior 2 years, and then when my buddy was driving for me, I said, it was a hot day, and I said, just for fun, go down and see if we both qualified into the show. He comes back, he goes, we're both in the B heat. I go, how is that possible? We both raced our way in. You finished third, you're second, I finished third. So, so maybe I was a little mad at Dave, but it happened. Somehow
I can't remember who wasn't there, and we were learning, and then
why do now? I mean, it's the years have gone by enough. I feel that, especially in the Roadrunner division, but only in the Roadrunner division, that you may still make the champion sit out. It's a division that if you make somebody sit out, that maybe they do move up. Yeah, Justin Wagner, yeah, he's moving up, but what if he didn't? What if that year sitting out?
We lost him. Yeah,
made you lose that driver, or for not maybe just 1 year, maybe for good. Maybe it's like, you know what? I like sitting in the stands. It's a little bit cheaper. Well, so why don't you let the champion come back in the Roadrunner?
That did come up, and it's come up many times. And back in the day when we had 40 Roadrunners, and
it's like the Sixers division.
Right. I mean,
it was. Now what? Like I told Greg Oliver up north, we're talking about. He's like I was talking about tire rule, and I said, man, I got 40 other guys that were going to junkyards. We're trying to buy the same tire. Mm-hmm. I says, let us have more years on the tires, or none at all, like you do. But back to the Roadrunner. Let the champions come back. You can make that happen.
Well, we could, but again, the other side of that coin is, you don't want a guy dominating, because then the other guys say, well, I'm not going to get into Roadrunners. That guy's kicking my ass. So there is that side of it too. I mean, not a bad example with Justin moving up to a Sportsman this year, but and there's years. Gene Morocco, for example, he finished second because he didn't want to quit racing, and he didn't want to move up. I mean, and that was a tough one because I remember Gene many a time saying, hey. That's when we had Wednesday night racing, and he could accommodate that, but that's still under consideration. And
like so where I'm from, like the Roadrunner or Street Stock division, and of course it goes for any division. It's called, man, that guy right there. He's the champion. It gives those guys some drive. It's like, I'm gonna go knock him off his little friggin' post here, that he's on, and okay, if he won it again, now give somebody again, I mean, even the higher up divisions, you see guys go back to back, and so I don't think that would hurt you by eliminating that rule.
Yeah.
Who knows? It might happen. If you did it this year, it might happen this year through next year, but it might take 3, 4, 5 years for somebody to do a repeat.
Well, and I hope that the rumor mill's right, and we get the Roadrunners that are supposedly coming out. I mean,
there's a lot. I've heard about a lot more guys
we've been on quite a road with Roadrunners, from the highs to the lows, and the rumor mill, they're gone, and I honestly, they put on probably one of the best racing shows of the night.
Roadrunners put on a hell of a show, because I've been going there around for almost 10 years. I remember Eric announcing, I forget, if it was a Wednesday or a Saturday night, and he's like, hey, he's like, these guys race the most at the Speedway. They race, 26, 27 nights, including Wednesdays or whatever, whatever number he said. And he's like, these guys are the busiest guys on the schedule, and you had a bunch then, So I would really like to see that come up as something that you change. That's one of the rules right there.
All right. Well, it's duly noted. I'll put that in the notes. And
you know what? Transponders only cost about $100. Put transponders on Sixers.
Ah. What about receivers and Sixers? There's a $75.
So here,
I'm going.
I'm not afraid to spend money on safety. So when you look in my cars, between my belts and my cage, I probably got, let's say, $200 to $300. And so now it's like, all right, now I've always had a receiver. And receivers are like $100. Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is stuff the Sixers can ask. When sponsors ask me, well, what do you want? To me, that's the real wrong question. Is what do I need? Right. What do I want? I said I want $2-3 grand. Yeah, see,
an enclosed hauler and
I said I need a toter so I can sleep in the thing when the wife kicks me.
Snap-on sets.
Yeah, but what do I need? I told one guy, I need 4 brand new tires on that car. They go, what's that? I go, about $400. So if you go out and you promote yourself, you can get $100 from a guy. You can get this, and you can get receivers so you can be talked to. So so Victoria can say, hey, heads up, going into here, and get everybody kind of loaded up just a little faster. The transponders, I've noticed there was a couple times where I had both my cars, and there was somebody new scorekeeping tonight. They were putting cars in front of me that had passed him, and I looked just like, those were behind me. So that's a little frustrating. So a couple of those things. But go ahead.
But no, the scoring side of that, it's then sitting up on the tower and they go, oh, how can that guy race and score at the same time? That's what that's kind of the little inside joke. And I get the
and I've been in your
safeties.
Tower. I've been in your tower when it was all hand scored. Because I went up and sat when I came there, and with the series I was with, you let me sit. I went up there, I just sat and watched, and I just kind of won. And that was, you had the loop for quite a while for the enduro, some of the enduro series, but you never utilized it at first. But I'd watch how they'd sit there, they go, and paperwork's going, and I was just like, this is nuts.
I can still do it. I can write numbers down, not even looking on the paper. It's weird how things you learn. But
you got a lot of good people.
And I'm bad at it, so.
And you're bad.
Yeah.
Were you the score that night?
Hey, every time you race, I run up there and make sure.
Well, no,
knock him back a few spots.
Explains a few things, but
put him back a few spots, guys.
Well, you want me make me earn it? That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's all right.
No, and I get your safety concerns. Yes, and my side of it is, I just don't want to prevent people from getting into the sport where they need a bunch of money just to go learn it first.
Yeah,
then they need to get scared. Maybe scared once in a while, but. That's kind of my take. One quick last question. Now that you're moving up, are you going to run Bahama brackets? You've been there.
I'm not opposed to it.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. I have offers already to, hey, if you're not going to run Hobby Fest, can I drive your car?
Oh.
And I was like, well, what if I want to drive Hobby Fest? So then they said, okay, you can drive it, but
just in case you don't.
The individual asked if I don't decide to run Hobby Fest, they'll pilot the car.
He'll do it though.
Yeah, well, he'll definitely do it and do well. I mean, it's I don't generally like people just jumping in my shit and taking for a spin because it makes me a little nervous because sometimes it's like you want to put a down payment on that before you go for a ride, because prior to buying certain cars, people are like, "Can you take it for a ride?" I go, it's the middle of the season. I'm not jumping in anything.
Do you have a crash clause in there? in that deal?
Yeah, if somebody crashes my stuff, they do.
Right.
It's like that's why I said they probably should have a check prior to them driving my car.
Well, hey, I know this time flies fast. There's a bunch of questions. I'm sorry, folks, we didn't get to you, but
you just didn't want to read them because they're probably terrible.
Well, your teammates are
they chiming in?
Yeah, they got their own little battle going on. You can read them.
How bad is it?
It's not that bad, but
Jesus.
I'd definitely like to thank Richie's Smoking Barbecue, the Misfit Productions. When you're done here, go to his page, click on subscribe me. That's actually how Kyle makes this all work. So we need, where are we at, Kyle? Where are you at on your subscriptions?
13 and a quarter, or 18 and a quarter.
18,000? Mm-hmm. Well, we need more. He's growing and growing. I'd like to thank Sean, the beer man. I set it down there. That's fine.
Yeah,
for joining us tonight. Always great. And there you go, fresh cold beer. Nah. I got to drink that Coors Light stuff, that's sponsored. And
this keg sponsored to you by
yeah. The beer man. Again, thanks, Richie Smoking Barbecue. This is Outside the Fence. We'll see you back here next week. Big Daytona 500 weekend. Who's your pick for the 500?
Let's go with Harvick.
Kevin Harvick, Ryan Preece, the old modified guy out of the East Coast, going to winner this year. That's my luck. We'll see you all next Friday night on Outside the Fence.